Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of video reviews about board and card games. Here are your hosts, Tom Vassell and Sam Healy.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Z Garcia. Hello.
Sam Healy, welcome back, folks.
We're taking a look today at one of the most interestingly named games ever, Dice Settlers.
Oh, it puts me there.
Where?
There.
Where is there?
Right near that place where things happen that are interesting.
With the cannoli?
Yeah, with the dice and, the settling.
Got it.
It actually, had I not seen this game and I said, let's play Dice Settlers, you guys would have assumed we were playing some sort of Catan game.
Catan
Dice.
variant?
Yeah, which they have already, but...
All right.
That's not what this is. This is from NSKN. This is a dice pool building game where you're going to be pulling dice from a bag, rolling them to take different actions, and then settling and stuff like that.
And dicing.
Here's how it plays.
Interesting.
At the beginning of the game, each player has a color, and for example, this player is the red player. Each player is going to start with 5 dice, 3 white, a green, and a yellow, which they'll put in their own dice bag. Players are also going to be drafting a starting tile, and they're going to be placing that starting tile in the middle of the board with one of their tents on it. That's what those cubes stand for. And each starting tile is going to give you some sort of benefit, like this one lets you put a house on it. This one gives you an extra gray die and an iron resource, an extra yellow die and a pumpkin resource. This, for example, I'm the red player. I start here. That lets me move up 1 on my dice track. This is how many dice you'll draw from your bag each turn. You start with 3, but because I have the most, that's what this symbol here means, cubes on that area, I'm going to be able to draw 4 dice from my bag. So each round of the game, players are going to draw the number of dice from their bag and roll them. And then players have the opportunity to use these dice to you can manipulate your dice. You can use 1 hat, for example, and I would move that from my active dice area down to my spent dice area. And that lets me re-roll any number of dice I want. So let's say I want to re-roll all of them. I could also use a hat if I want to set a die to whatever I want it to be. So maybe I move it to this side here. So you can use hats to re-roll and or set a die to whatever you want it to be. If you have a resource, you can also use these to draw 2 more dice from the bag and roll them or set a die to the side that you want. Once you have your dice, starting with the start player, who has this, each player gets to take 1 action around the table and then take a second action. When you take an action, you can use as many dice as you want from that action. So if I have 3 dice with the fire on, for example, then I could do that action 3 times. So what do the different actions do? The Explore action, which is the compass here, lets you draw tiles off the top of the tile pile equal to the number of Explore icons that you use in the action. You then choose one of those tiles, place it adjacent to a tile where you have a tent, place one of your tents there. Each other player who's adjacent to it may also place a tent there. And if they do so, then you get a second tent there so that you have control. You'll see this gives me one of these icons here, these recruit icons, and I can use that once per turn, and I just put one of my tokens on it here to show that I use it. And I only get that if I control that tile. So as the game goes by, there's going to be various tiles that are going to show up over the course of the game. Some tiles have a factory here on them. When there's a factory, at any point on your turn, as a free action, you can remove one of your cubes and do whatever it says here. In this case, it gives me a free pumpkin resource. Here's another tile here that will increase how many dice you have. This one here, you can remove a cube to get 2 cubes from the 2 tents from the supply and add them to your own personal supply. And some of them have no special thing on them at all. But at the end of the game, whoever has the most cubes in an area is going to get the number of points listed there. That's a 7-point tile. And whoever has the second most cubes will get the second number of points. There's also tiles like this that show 2 people on them. You don't need to control the tile to get the benefit. You just need to have presence on the tile. So that's what Explore does. The fire emblems, the settle icons, these icons are going to allow you to simply place out more tents in the same area that you're already in or an adjacent area, or take tents from the general supply and add them to your supply. Because you only have so many, you start with 5, but you're going to want, there's a lot more in the supply that you'll want to get as the game goes by. If you ever have 3 more tents than everyone else in a region, you can remove those tents as a free action and put a house there. Houses are going to be worth points at the end of the game, and they also mean you automatically have majority control of that spot. The raid icon, which shows the guns, allows you to take someone else's tent off and replace it with your own. Harvest dice, you simply spend these dice to take the appropriate amount of whatever goods you want. So this will give me 2 pumpkins, an iron, a wood, and a gold. That's a pretty good roll, though. Gold is useful, especially because it can be used as a wild resource. This can come in handy because the trade icon lets you discard 3 of the same icon, and so since gold's wild, I could discard 3 pumpkins, for example, to get 6 points, 3 different resource tokens to get 5 points, any 2 resource tokens to get 2 points. You can even get rid of one of your dice out of the game for an additional 3 points. So that icon lets you get rid of dice, and you'll take points. There will be a pile of point tokens near the board depending on the number of players. When all the points run out, that's one of the end triggers to the game. You can also use recruit icons here. 1 gets you a new die. 3 will let you get 2 dice, and 6 of them will let you get 3 dice. When you take dice, you can only take dice colors that are available in the supply and where you have a control marker on that tile. So having a tent on a tile will allow me to recruit orange dice. There's lots of different colored dice in the game. Your starting player board shows you what's on each side of the dice. You can see brown has all the resources, gray has more guns and iron, more settle, more research tokens, and those are your initial white dice. You can't get more of them, but you start with them. By the way, you can always use 2 hats as any icon in this game. But getting more dice, when we're down to only 2 colors or less of dice that are left in the game, that's another trigger for the end. Research icons are going to let you get technologies that are on the board. You'll start with a random bunch of technologies. There are different decks of technologies, and you'll be pulling certain amounts off of each deck and putting them out here, or you can pick a set. The book comes with different sets that will match together. And when you want to take a technology, you need to spend that many technology markers on your dice or other tokens that you might have, and you sometimes need to be on certain properties. This one doesn't require any, but if I want prosperity, I need to spend 4 technology icons, spend a gold resource, and be on trees and the desert. If I do so, you then get the special ability. Some of them give you a once per round thing, like this once per round I get a free pioneer icon, or once per round I get 2 settle icons. Some increase your dice quotient. This lets me increase my dice quotient by 1. Some are going to give you end of game points. This gives you an extra point for every die you have at the end of the game. This gives you an extra 2 points for every technology you have. And every technology you are on will also give you points at the end of the game. So every game is going to be different because of these. There's even a small variant included in the game where there are some black powder one-time cards where you can put your tokens on these, but then you have to remove it, explode it it's called, to get a one-time special use, and if you don't, at the end of the game it's worth points. So I mentioned there's several triggers to the end of the game: running out of tiles to put on the board, running out of the 2 different dice, running out of victory points. When a game ends, players get 1 final round, and then players are going to score for majorities that they have on the different tiles that are on the board, for the different technology cards, end game bonuses, and just controlling technologies in general, for the points that they collected throughout the game. Every 2 dice are going to be worth points at the end of the game. And finally, houses. Houses that you've built over the course of the game can be extremely valuable. So you have 5 of them, and your points to them are equal to the square of the houses you got on the board. So 1 is only worth 1 point, but 5 is worth 25 points. You'll add all these points together, and whoever has the most is the winner of the game. Now, normally, I don't care if I get the deluxe version of a game. But I heard that the deluxe version of this one has little tents instead of cubes,
really?
which is fine because everything in the game says tent, 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 and I just never could get used to the fact that cubes were tents.
So you're saying you'd rather have the tents than the cubes?
Yeah, like normally if someone says, I have the deluxe version, like, all right, whatever, I'm okay with the regular version. I think I would have liked a little bit more deluxe in this one. But that being said, the production is okay. I want to jump in and say I like the game, so I'm not bagging on it, but the artwork for this is fine. But the rest of it on the table, it doesn't have a strong presence, I think.
I would go a little farther than that, I think. Not much farther, but a little farther. I think it does not look good. And I don't think I think the iconography near the bottom of the tiles that might show some sort of special ability doesn't pop. It's hard to see. Yeah, I don't consider this game to be a good-looking game.
Yeah, the board layout doesn't look good, but at the same time, it's functional.
You think so?
Yeah, I think it's functional.
I think it's functional. It just feels like it's almost prototype.
It's sterile. It's just a sterile board. That's the best way for me to put it. But the artwork on the cards and stuff like that, it's all pretty good.
Yeah, and I like the dice. I'm starting to really enjoy that heat press dice. I don't know why they work for me. The dice bags are entirely too small. Apparently they play this game with 4-year-old children because I cannot fit my hand in that bag. Yeah. I get like 3 fingers in, or I dump a few dice out. That's a really odd choice.
Yeah.
So again, even though I like the game, I thought that the components could have been better.
Yeah, they could have been.
Agreed.
Now that being said, I really did enjoy the game. I'm a big fan of pool building games in general. I like the dice, and I like that I can buy different dice, and I like that each die was very different. If I want to get resources, the brown die has one of every kind on it. If I want to attack other people, the gray dice have attacking on it. And I like that the game very obviously points out the different paths to victory. Mm-hmm. Hey, do area control. Hey, dudes hit technology to get points, or hey, get all your houses on the board. Those are the big 3 ways I think of getting points, but it's not subtle. You're just going to do them.
Right.
And it's a little mechanical in that way, but I found myself enjoying it. There's interaction where the players will, you could use those attack things to take my guy up and put it on, and I don't like that when that happens to me, but I never felt like it was a huge take that game.
No, I don't. I didn't feel like it was a take that game at all. Actually, it's just.
Well, there's a little bit of it. I mean, if you're like a Care Bear and you don't want to fight at all, you will be annoyed.
Yeah, but that's not take that. That's just confrontation. Take that is when you're like playing a card on somebody and you just to play a card on them and make something bad happen to them. It's not. That's different than.
Okay, well then I guess war.
Than attacking.
There's a little bit of war
confrontation.
In this.
Yeah, that's not take that though. That's
Well, anyway, that's what I meant.
Interaction.
There is interaction a little bit, though it's not subtle. I think it's a good way to put this game is that it doesn't really feel subtle. It's like, oh, I get to put a cube here. You're next to that. Come in here too. Put a cube on there. Why? Because we need some interaction.
Well,
put some cubes in here, please.
No, I think that thematically makes sense because the people are like migrating out.
I guess.
And it also, you're right though, I think actually it's not so much the reason it was done is not for forced interaction, but to keep one person from just building tiles all the way on their side of the board and no one can get to those tiles.
Yeah,
that's true.
That's interaction. I mean, that's having people intermingle a little bit so that there is something going on for the control of tiles, which equals victory points.
Mm-hmm.
I also felt like turns aren't very long in this game. This is a game I could play with someone who might take, sometimes, those people who take hours on their turns. This one, you don't have a lot of options. You're going to take resources, then take resources. I found the longest pauses in this game were when people were deciding how to manipulate their dice.
Yeah.
Other than that, once you have your dice manipulated, I'm going to explore. I will draw a tile. I will obviously put it next to where I'm at. I will get a technology. I can afford 2 of the 8. Which one do I want? It wasn't huge amounts of choices, which, I mean, as the game goes by, you have a lot of choices, but they weren't open-ended.
You like that, though?
Not always, but in this game it was okay.
Okay.
I like that other people did not take forever on their turns. It was like, I felt like the game moved pretty quickly.
Well, when you have a limited number of things that you can choose from, that helps with the whole analysis paralysis thing, because you only have, depending on how many you roll, how you rolled your dice, you only have 3, maybe 4 things to choose from. And 1 or 2 of those usually are pretty obvious. Those are the better choices for you to do.
Right.
So I think when games do that, that is like an active battling against analysis paralysis, which is cool.
And your choices are almost made earlier when you buy the dice. Like when you pick your dice, that you are now saying, I'm going to go for this. I'm going to go and get the resources. Oh, that's the other way to get victory points. Sets of resources and turn them in.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to go for in this game. Or I'm going to go for technology. And another thing I liked about the game was the variety of technology. Every game it's going to be different, and there's a different set there, and it's, you're just trying to figure out how that works in.
Yeah.
So for me, this is a 1 thumb up game. Possibly.
Certainly, you mean 1 tent up. The deluxe tent.
Sorry, it's 1 thumb for the normal version. It would have got a 10 had I had the deluxe version. All right.
1 cube up.
With the possibility of another one, like maybe 1.5. I like it a lot. The biggest flaw of it is it's generic. It's like, hey, we're playing Dice Settlers. What's it about? Who cares? And it feels like, I think this will be a decent size hit. I think a lot of people are going to like it. A lot of people are going to like the dice pull and rolling things.
Okay.
But I think it could have been a huge hit if there had been just a little bit more put into it. But as it is, that whole build the dice pull and the different strategies, I'm a big fan of.
Okay.
What about you?
I am having a hard time not falling asleep thinking about the game a little bit. Not because I...
Glowing endorsement.
Here's the thing. I don't dislike this game. I just find it very forgettable. I don't have strong emotions inspired by this game one way or the other. You just kind of hit it on the nail on the head there when you said it's generic. You know what? It feels generic. The title's generic. The mechanisms feel generic to me. I feel like I've done all this before. This game just did not hit me at the right place where I could grasp onto or gravitate towards any one thing in it. If you like it, there's nothing I would say, buyer beware, this thing is bad. But, wow, this game is uninspiring. I just find it to be forgettable.
So, no thumbs.
I'm right at I'm not giving a thumbs down, right? I'm just like, nothing. Zip. No thumbs up or down.
I think I'd rather you've given it a thumbs down.
Thumbs down inspires passion,
Right.
No.
All right. What about you, Sam?
1 tent
Not
before you build it, just thrown about on the floor. Big empty balloon.
Just laying flat.
Just a flat tent on the ground.
Flat tent. Okay. I guess I liked it more than him, not as much as you. So I guess that's going to be a little bit of a half a thumb or a half a house.
Sam started putting his tent up and he's like, nah, it's good enough.
I'm good. I'm just going to sleep underneath the tent.
You got enough up so you can slide in.
That's it. Enough.
So, it's not that, like Z was saying, it's not that there's anything bad necessarily in the game. It's just that it didn't grab anything and say, hey, here I am, look at me, this is cool. I enjoyed the dice rolling aspect of it, but again, it always has that thing where if you don't roll the face that you really need to roll, you're kind of stuck doing something that's subpar or just not as good as what you were hoping you would be able to do. And that kind of can grate on you after a while. It's an 1.5-hour game, so that's a little bit of a long time. If that happens multiple times in a row, that can really set you off on the game. Not that it happened with me, but it could. It could happen. So that happens with any dice rolling game, and I didn't really feel there was some dice mitigation in it.
Well, yeah, I think there's a lot. The hats are half of your initial dice.
Again, though, if you don't roll those hats, though, which is possible.
Sure, but then you're rolling something else, which is useful.
Yeah, slightly useful. Again, it's that whole subpar thing that comes back. But I enjoyed it. But again, there's just I was a lot like Z when we were talking about a couple days ago doing this. I was like, man, I gotta get that rulebook out and read it again. I don't remember how this game was was played. And you know, I looked at the back of the box and it started all coming back to me, but it was somewhat forgettable, yeah.
Yeah, I won't disagree with them, and I get that. I just think that the mechanisms of the game are so smooth and, for me, interesting and fun that they overcome that generic, which, for me, keeps it from being great, but isn't that kiss of death.
Okay.
So, alrighty. Well, definitely check it out. You
Yeah.
might really like it. Don't. You know, I have some people be like, "Oh, they were kind of mediocre." Well, no, Z was mediocre. I actually do really like it.
Right,
So,
right. Yeah, give it a shot. I mean, again, there's nothing for me to say.
Give it a shot.
There's nothing for me to say. Don't play this game. Try it out.
Yeah.
You might like it, and especially if you are a big fan of deck building / pool bag building, whatever. But you know, just know that you're not. It might not make a strong impression. Maybe that's the only thing I could possibly warn you about. Give it a shot, though.
Yep.
Well, there you go. Dice Settlers. Until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Z Garcia.
Sam Healy. See you on the flip side, folks.